Opening night in college basketball. What else can we say? This is what we've been waiting for all year. Phenomenal time of the year. Cannot wait to bring you all this SEC basketball action. Last night was opening night. Granted, not every team was on the docket. You had teams like LSU, Arkansas, and Auburn all playing on Wednesday. But for most of the league, playing tonight. Let's call a spade, guys. That's what we do here on the SEC Unfiltered channel. Let's call a spade. It wasn't a great night. It was not a great night across the board for the SEC. All things considered, it wasn't a losing record. It just wasn't a great night. You had Texas A&M drop a game to UCF. We'll talk about that one in just a minute. You had South Carolina dropping one to the Ospreys from North Florida. You had Ohio State kind of from start to finish beat Texas. And then you had Missouri falter late in Memphis at the FedEx Forum drama. So that's 4 losses for the league. It's supposed to be one of the better leagues in the country. I still believe that. Again, it's opening night, as we got to say, guys. I know we're still in this football mindset a little bit. A few people that aren't football people and just college basketball fans, well, I'm your host, Dave Shumate. I'm going to be bringing you the college basketball action all year from the SEC Unfiltered channel. But we got to remember, it's just one loss. It's just one loss in college basketball for the A&M, the Texas fans, the South Carolina fans, and the Missouri fans. It's just one loss. So don't let it get you down too much. It's a long haul. Most teams have another game this week, so it'll be fine. Is it good? No. But is it time to panic? No. It's usually not as bad as it looks, folks. Again, I worked in college football, the recruiting personnel department in the SEC for 9 to 10 years. It's usually, in my experience, not as bad as it looks. It's not as good as it looks normally. Somewhere in the middle. But let's get right to it. Let's start off with the number 2 team in the country, the highest-ranked SEC team heading in. The Alabama Crimson Tide get a big 110-54 win over UNC Asheville to open the year. I think UNC Asheville in the Big South was projected, if I remember right when I was doing my preseason preview, like 4th in the Big South. But overall, Alabama controlled this from start to finish. I was actually impressed a little bit with UNC Asheville and their weave sets. But Alabama, man, just a deep, deep basketball team. Mark Sears doing Mark Sears, 20 points. Cliff Omari, the Rutgers transfer here in the front court, had 16 points. Jaron Stevenson, 10. Who else? LeBaron Filan, the transfer, or not the transfer, the true freshman point guard from Mobile, committed to Kansas for a while. Even Auburn had 10 points. Mo Diabate, who just does Mo Diabate things. He had 11, so he was in double figures. And also Latrell Wrightsell was with 13, and Aiden Holloway, the Auburn transfer, with 11. This Alabama team can roll 5 in, 5 out against a lot of teams, folks. It's just a really good basketball team. Again, you have Mark Sears, the leadership. You got Grant Nelson, who only had 2 points. He didn't play in the first 2 exhibitions against Wake Forest or Memphis. Aiden Sherrill, I think, in the front court is going to be a good body. I mean, that front court, you're going to have Cliff Omari, Grant Nelson at the 4th spot, and true freshman Aiden Sherrill came over from Prolific Prep, as did his teammate, Darian Reed. This is one of the deeper basketball teams I can remember. On paper, the most talented Alabama basketball team, at least in my lifetime. I mean, maybe close second. Would definitely probably be the 2002-2023 team 2 years ago with Brandon Miller, Noah Clowney, guys like that. And then you probably have to go back to the early Mark Godfrey days, the 01-02. That was Erwin Dudley was on staff, Mo Williams, Ernest Shelton, Kennedy Winston, guys like that who you remember. But this team is just, again, I didn't think this was a bad UNC Asheville team. You watch them and you're like, they run some good sets. They make some tough shots. I mean, Alabama won 110-54, folks. I mean, it really wasn't even a close game against a solid team. You got to think, Alabama beat Memphis and Wake Forest by double digits in just exhibitions without Grant Nelson, without Aiden Sherrill, and without Latrell Wrightsell. Remember, Latrell Wrightsell last year, Alabama was at 11-0, I believe, when he scored in double figures, went out with some concussion issues to end the season last year. Alabama shot 63% from the field, though, 44% from three-point range. Defense let them down a little bit in turnovers, I would say. They had 10. Nate Oates is not going to like that, being in double digits. But I thought overall, phenomenal first game. I think they got to keep an eye on X factor for this team. He's got a little chip on his shoulder. He's got edge. You can see he likes to get into it, plays a little emotionally, which I'm talking about can be a good thing, could be a bad thing if you don't channel it right. But it's LeBaron Filan, guys. the true freshman coming out of nowhere. I think he's one they didn't expect to be as good as he has been so far. Got the start last night, just doing a phenomenal job. This team's deep. I think it's the best team in college basketball right now. They're going to lose a game. They're going to lose a couple games. It is what it is. Just not a lot of weaknesses on this team, and they're very deep. I don't know where the minutes are going to be cut when you get to January in conference play. That's why Nate Oates makes the big bucks. But that's a good problem to have for him. But we had to lead off with the number 2 team in the country, just doing number two team in the country type things. Bama in dominating form against, I'm telling you, the people are going to look at the scoreboard like, oh, UNC Asheville, not a good team. No. I think UNC Asheville could be a solid team across the board. But 110, 54 across the board for the Crimson Tide. Got to go a little negative here. Another highly ranked team, but they go down in O-Town. A&M falls late to Johnny Dawkins, who I feel like has been at UCF forever now. Johnny Dawkins and the boys across the board, falling to UCF 64-61. Seems very familiar. I mean, A&M always drops these early non-conference games for Buzz Williams. They kind of turn it on when conference play starts. I think it's a thing just so consistent. I mean, only shot 34% from the field, 30% from three-point line. Not terrible at the stripe, but 22 for 31. Probably like to have a couple of them back. Got out rebounded, which is surprising. Got out rebounded 43-35. The Knights held that edge by 8. You usually don't see, especially in the offensive side, 16-8. That's where A&M makes their money. It's usually, unfortunately, the Will Wade show. Not the Will Wade show. What was it? Wade Taylor the fourth. I was looking at McNeese State. Wade Taylor's been there for years. It's usually the Wade Taylor show, and guys like Anderson Garcia, Washington, Jace Carter, guys like that, Henry Coleman get second chance points. That's kind of been their offense for the last 2 or 3 years. I mean, this team kind of goes as Wade Taylor takes them. I mean, it is what it is. It was kind of very similar to that. They had a couple of chances. I think they had 3 shots at the end to tie this thing up. But again, it's a team that's just not going to score a lot. I mean, what did you have? Pharrell Payne over here, he had, 15 points last night? Yeah, the Minnesota transfer, 15 points last night, 6 boards. He had a good night. Wade Taylor, 13, played 34 minutes, 4 for 15. You think he'd probably know he could do a little better down the stretch. But other than that, no one was even really close to double figures. Henry Coleman, 6. C.J. Wilcher, the Nebraska transfer, he had 6, but it wasn't anything to really write home about. I mean, this is, again, I'm going to chalk this one up as don't take it too serious. We've seen this before, and I know it's frustrating, A&M fans, but maybe you go get one of those. Maybe they struggle so much. They put themselves in a hole in these non-conference leagues because they don't win any of them. They have to go play really well in conference, and that only gives them anywhere from a 7 to 10 seed because you did so bad in non-conference play. I mean, you get Ohio State in a couple of weeks who just beat Texas. That'll be a chance to notch a big win, a Big Ten win. Oregon, Creighton, they still have Wake Forest projected 3rd in the ACC. They have Texas Tech, Purdue. I mean, they have opportunities in this non-conference league to go get some more wins. UCF, it is a big year for Johnny Dawkins in the Big 12. I mean, they should be able to make the tournament. If not, they may make a change at UCF. So they may have needed it a little more. But again, if you're an A&M fan, 2 things can be true at once. I get the frustration of these early non-conference wins or losses, but also don't give up yet. You got a veteran core team across the board here. You got a veteran core team. You got up early. I mean, you're at 12-2. It was looking typical A&M style. Hey, you're missing some shots already, but, you were being like a boa constrictor, suffocating defense, not allowing UCF to get much. So, I mean, it's not like UCF was just phenomenal. I mean, they only shot 36% and 30% from three-point range. I mean, it wasn't like they were great either. A&M on defense was fine, and they are every night. That travels. But you're going to have to get one of these big non-con wins. Again, you got guys who've been in this program for a while. Jace Carter, Henry Coleman, Anderson Garcia, Hayden Hefner's been in the program. Wade Taylor, Manny Obaseki, he's been in the program for a while. Solomon Washington. They're going to be fine, folks. This is going to be an NCAA tournament team. It just wasn't a good opening night. It's something you can sympathize with A&M fans and see why they're tired of these early season non-conference losses. But it's nothing to write home about yet. Speaking of Texas, we're staying in the Lone Star State. Texas falls in the desert, folks, to Ohio State. I believe Ohio State, when I missed the very beginning of this game, it was leading Some of the comments have to help for sure. But leading from start to finish in this one, really, if we want to be completely honest, we're leading start to finish in this one. I mean, outside of it, there really wasn't a lot of help across the board here for our guy Trey Johnson, who went for 29, 10 for 12, 50% shooting, 5 for 10 from 3, 50%. I mean, that's a night for a true freshman, folks. But outside of that, not a lot of help. Arthur Kaluma, the Kansas State transfer, had 10 points, and Caden Shedrick had 10 as well. But that's where, if you're Rodney Terry and his staff, you're going to have to figure out, was it a bad performance? No. I just thought it was a more complete performance by Ohio State team, a veteran Ohio State team. They're going to have to figure out who can, and this was our question going into the year and why I had him finish ninth, who can help Trey Johnson? That is where Rodney Terry and his staff are going to have to be creative from that perspective. I mean, I know they're hoping it's Jordan Pope, who came over from Oregon State, but I mean, what did he have last night? I'm looking at it. 5 points, 2 for 8, 1 for 6 from beyond the arc. That's got to improve. If Arthur Kaluma's having to be banking on getting 10 to 15 points a game outside of Trey Johnson, that's not going to be great. You didn't get a lot from your bench, too. You only played, 5 guys? Yeah, you only played 3 guys on the bench. Like, it looks like it's going to be the Trey Johnson show, but if Texas is going to have the year that many expect in technically year 3 or year 2.5, however you want to view Rodney Terry, so they're going to have to develop someone else outside of Trey Johnson, because teams are going to just start saying, hey, it's kind of like back in the day with Michael Jordan, we'll let him go get his 40, but nobody else is going to do it. So he can go get 40, 45. We're going to go win the basketball game like 80 to 72. It just is what it is. They have to go find other threats. That's what I noticed in that one. I believe Ohio State did lead from start to finish there. So disappointing loss. Exciting to watch Trey Johnson. We knew he'd be great, shooting 50% from the field, 50% from beyond the arc. But they're going to need Rodney Terry get paid the big bucks to go figure out who else can help him. Florida hangs on. The Florida Gators, folks, hang on in an emotional night in Jacksonville. I mean, what do you say? I mean, you feel bad for a South Florida team that had previously lost their coach. Prayers up for that program right there. They came out hot. I mean, Florida got down. I think Florida was down real early. But that's where you do have guys like Will Richard, Walter Clayton coming and step up. Walter Clayton had 29 on 10 of 15 shooting, 2 from 5 from behind the arc. Will Richard had 25, 10 from 17, 2 for 7 behind the arc. They led this team. And again, Alex Condon went up there, 13 points, 5 rebounds. This was a dangerous game. For Florida across the board here, that you were a little like, yeah, I kept watching the game and I was like, dude, are they going to lose? Are they going to lose this game on opening night? It'd be a tough first loss for Todd Golden on the year. Again, it's college basketball, folks. Like you can afford some losses across the line here, but wasn't all terrible. Thought Florida shot really well from the free throw line. Overall, 3-point line was terrible. 5 for 25, shot 52% from the field. I mean, it was an emotional night, so you had to give them credit. Elijah Martin didn't come out like I thought he would, but that's why you have Walter Clayton and Will Richard. Elijah Martin, just like Alex Condon, tallied 13. He's the guy, the FAU transfer. Remember, there's 2 key FAU transfers in this league now. Elijah Martin, who's on that Final Four team, and then Nelly Davis is now at Arkansas. So both those 2 really good players, former Owls, are now in the SEC. So keep an eye on that. But again, Florida trailed by 13 in the first half in this game. But they did outscore South Florida 59-43 in the second half. A lot of this was just an emotional night with Abdur Rahim. Remember, the South Florida coach passing away, unfortunately, and just a tragedy and it's something to do with a surgery procedure. I don't want to go into it, but at 43, it's really sad to see. Florida wore his last name on the cross their warm-ups. That was a good gesture by Todd Golden in the boys. But no, I mean, Florida was down 13 in the first half, cut it to 40 to 39 and a half, and kind of just took on at that point. It kind of took ahead, but Florida just went on a 17-2 run that spanned for probably about, 6 minutes? I'm looking at you, 5:59 for about 6 minutes. That ultimately just put them over the edge, and they never looked back. So I don't really blame Florida here. I mean, South Florida's been a pretty good program now. I mean, they have Josh Youngblood, who was the co-AAC Player of the Year, who did transfer to Alabama. So they do have young players in this system that are playing well. an emotional night. I'm going to give the benefit of the doubt. South Florida was playing above their head. But when Florida had to go make plays, get stops, go on runs, that's where you had Will Richard. That's where you had Walter Clayton take over from that perspective. Missouri blows a lead against Memphis that, man, the final score in this one, I got it right here. Final score, we got 83-75. Memphis getting the win at home in the FedEx Forum. You watch Missouri, and you like what you were watching. It was like, man, they look like an improved basketball team. They looked like an improved basketball team. Just physical body type. They're more athletic than you could say. I mean, again, they're bigger, more athletic than last year's team. It's not even close, I didn't think. I'm reading my notes right now, what I wrote down from there. How that translates over the course of the season, I don't know. I thought Josh Gray, the South Carolina transfer, was huge. Aiden Shaw, he's a good athlete. Trent Pierce, I thought, looked pretty good. They got a few guys that you could tell. Hey, this roster is definitely improved from last year. Just a little bit of the rotations. Trent Pierce, Aiden Shaw led the way, and then you never saw them. I mean, you never really saw them after that. So, I mean, I'm looking at the box score here. Yeah, it's Monty Bates, 13, Robinson, 16. Yeah, and I mean, Shaw and Pierce, I thought could have played more. They both had Pierce had 13, Shaw had 11. Pierce was 5 for 10, 2 for 6 from beyond the arc. Hayden Shaw 4 for 4 and 1 from beyond the arc. You thought those guys would probably play a little more. Maybe I'm crazy for thinking that, but again, Missouri, like I mentioned, South Florida was up 13 against Florida. Missouri was up pretty much this whole game. They were up 13 and it got cut to 4 just real fast. And Florida just, Missouri just never, Missouri could never really kind of get it together after that. You know what I mean? It's just, this was a weird game. This would have been a big win for Dennis Gates and this Missouri team to open up. I mean, I'm looking at it. Missouri only shot 64% from the line. That's not going to win many basketball. You left 9 points on the board from that perspective. Had 14 turnovers. Memphis had 16, so you forced some. But overall, I mean, they're better. Missouri is a better team. But with all this soap opera drama around the Memphis program and Penny Hardaway right now, they were ripe for the taking. You going into their house and winning this game, and you started off phenomenal. You were up 10 at half, 42-32, and got outscored in the second half. I don't know what was going on. This is just one of those you may look back at the end of the year, maybe a little bit of an overreaction, but it's like, it's one we got to have, but it's also something you can improve on. It's something you can improve on. I mean, again, Anthony Robertson in the second, I thought had a really good night, 16 points, 4 boards. He's going to be a good player at 6'3", 180, the Tallahassee native. I liked him when I was doing my preview on Missouri going in. Again, the positive for Missouri, you look better. You probably knew you were going to be better. Let's call it spade a spade. You went defeated in league play last year, 0-18. Again, not trying to run salt in the wound, folks. Just setting the tone for it. They're improved, bigger, more athletic. They're going to win some games in this league this year. I just think in the second half, they let it get away from them. And I think that's really just what it was. Nothing more, nothing less. Again, folks, as I said at the beginning of the show, it's usually not as bad as it looks after a loss. And it's usually not as good as it looks after a win. From an Alabama perspective, the number 2 ranked team in the country, I guarantee you Nate Oates has a ton of film. He's going to go back and show, hey, on a set underneath the basket, I remember watching the play with 1 second on the shot clock. Alabama gave up a basket just on a lob pass, and it was on Grant Nelson for not looking. I bet Nate Oates in film session will go nuts with that. Guys, we played our ass off to the very end of this possession. We give up an inbound play with 1 second on the shot clock. Can't happen again. Not as good as it looks after a 50-point win. Not as bad as it looks for Missouri after an 8-point loss where you were up 10 at halftime. Hey, just go back to the drawing board, folks. Missouri, plenty of other opportunities in non-con play to go get some wins here across the board. Next big one, you'd probably say Kansas. But again, that's in December 8th. It's December 8th, so you got a while to get it right. But your next matchup will be Friday. Like I mentioned, everybody kind of bounces back this week against Howard. And then they'll have another chance against Illinois later in the year. So, but not a big-time non-conference slate. They got Cal mixed in there. So not a ton of opportunities. That's why this one could sting a little bit, but no time to panic, folks. You do look better. You do look better across the board. Mark Pope gets his first win for Big Blue Nation, folks. They're going to be dangerous in transition. They are. They're going to get out. They have quick guards. They're going to push the pace. The way they pass the ball, the way they have some of these highlight plays in transition. I mean, Kentucky was 30 of 39 made on shots tonight. And they go quickly, guys. They go quickly. The Wildcats got out to a 15-2 run at the start of the second half, which led to them just totally breaking this open against Wright State. But it's a pace you're not used to seeing. I thought the defense played pretty well across the board as well. I thought Otago did well. Lamont Butler, we know about him. The San Diego State transfer, probably one of the better defending guards in the entire country. Great opening night win for Mark Pope to get his first regular season win. All but Wright State, but still, I think it's an exciting product to go watch, folks. It's an exciting product to go watch if you're a Kentucky fan. I mean, I'm looking at the box score. This is a team that shot 60% from the field last night and 45% from three. This is a team that's shooting really well right now. It's a team that's shooting really well right now. I mean, let me look at some of these. You had Owe, he was 3 for 3 from downtown. And my guy, one of the more underrated players in the league, the Dayton transfer, Kobe Brea, 4 for 4. I loved him when he went in the portal. Thought some other teams probably should have went after him, would have fit their system perfectly. He was 7 for 8 for the night, 4 for 4. Just a cool 18 points to open up the night. So Kentucky's got sharp shooters, guys. They're going to be hard to defend across the board. Phenomenal night for Mark Pope. New era for Kentucky running in. You got to be excited if you're a Wildcat. He is your guy. He loves Kentucky. Again, I think it's going to be great for both parties. I think John Calipari, again, we're not talking about Arkansas tonight, but I think he's going to get rejuvenated like Rick Barnes did when he left Texas to go to Tennessee. You see the consistent success Tennessee has year in, year out because of Rick Barnes. I think it's going to do something very similar for Cal, but I also think Kentucky's going to embrace their own. Mark Pope on the national championship team really embraces just being himself, coming over from BYU. Love his up-tempo system. They're shooting really well right now for the Wildcats. They got a big one next week, a week from tonight, actually, against Duke, I believe, in the Champions Classic. So that'll be another interesting one as well. They also play Gonzaga at a non-conference. Ohio State. A couple teams play Ohio State in the SEC in non-conference play. A&M, we saw they got the win against Texas last night, Ohio State, and they play Kentucky. So big night for Big Blue Nation across the board. And let's just go around the rest of the league before I get you out of here. I just wanted to recap the night for you, but let's just go back up. Tennessee getting the 80-64 win over another Big South team. The SEC played 2 Big South teams last night, Gardner-Webb and UNC Asheville. I actually think Gardner-Webb is projected a little better, just a spot or 2 in the Big South. I have to go look that up. Tennessee, I mean, this team's going to take a little bit to gel. It is. I like the Felix Okapara take. Ohio State transfer. I feel like we're talking about Ohio State a ton on this show today. But he didn't have his greatest night defensively. Thought he looked better in the exhibition against Indiana. This team's going to be slow to come on. Chaz Lanier, I thought played with 4 for 6 from around the arc, 7 for 12, 18. Zakai Ziegler went for 13, but 3 for 10 from field goal, 0 for 6 from 3. That's what I'm saying. This offense, and Rick Barnes knows this because he's a Hall of Fame basketball coach. This offense cannot just rely on Zakai Ziegler. My point. I was trying to tell Tennessee fans this when I put my predictions out, why I had them 6 going in. And again, this had nothing to do with it, but just the score of this game is what I mean. 3 for 10 from field, 0 for 6. That's not going to get it done. That's not. He got most of his points at the free throw line, 7 for 7. I think the Milicic kid is going to be key for this Tennessee team as well. 8 points, 4 rebounds last night. He transferred over from Charlotte. He's another guy that's going to have to step up. Lanier, the North Florida transfer, who actually got the win against South Florida last night, he's going to have to end up stepping up, being one of the better shooters. Again, they're not going to replace Dalton Connect, guys. It is what it is. JP Estrella, my guy Cade Phillips is going to have to step up. I mean, across the board, Jordan Gainey will be in that. Is this a team you love right now for Tennessee? Jemai Meshack? No. But they're going to consistently get better as the season continues to roll on. I think that's what you got to accept if you're a Tennessee fan. Are they going to be pretty wins across the board early in the season? Probably not. But again, you just got to take this team for what it is. A lot of new faces. You lost your best scorer. You lost Jonas Adu. You lost Santiago Vescovi. It's going to take some time for this team to get a gel, but just trust Rick Barnes, guys. I know Tennessee fans know that. I know they like to get on to Rick Barnes, but I think last year did a lot for him. Won the SEC regular season, made it to the Elite Eight, just ran into a tough Purdue team. But I think be patient with this Tennessee team, folks. I think you're going to love them by the end of the year. Going through some other scores. We mentioned that one already. Ole Miss getting the 90-60 win over Long Island at the Pavilion. I mean, just typical. I think Chris Beard and them are going to – I put them at 7th going into the season. I think they're going to take a big step. Chris Beard teams typically do in year 2. Also, he brought in his big-time assistant, Mark Adams, who took over for him at Texas Tech when he left Tech to go to Texas. He's on staff as the defensive guru for this team. I like this team a lot, man. I think they're going to defend their ass off. Juju Murray, 24 last night. Dre Davis, the Seton Hall transfer, coming in at 11. I think Ole Miss is going to be a really good basketball team this year, folks. I'll even go out to say it. I'd be shocked if they did not make the NCAA tournament. Malik Dia, previously at Vanderbilt and Belmont. Sean Padula, I think he only had 5 last night, 2 for 7, 1 for 4 beyond the arc. The Virginia Tech transfer, pure shooter. He'll be someone that steps up. Matthew Morrell only with 11 last night. But I think defensively is that number 60. I know it's Long Island, the Sharks, but 60, that's something to keep an eye on. Ole Miss is going to defend their tail off this year. I think that's going to be something you need to keep an eye on. But a big opening night win for Chris Beard and Ole Miss. I think they take a big step in year 2, if I'm just being completely honest here, folks. North Florida getting the 74-71 win over South Carolina. Colin Murray-Boyles was kind of the only guy that really got anything going, 17 points. But we knew that. Colin Murray-Boyles doing Colin Murray-Boyles things. Going to need a little bit more out of Nick Pringle, the Alabama transfer. Only 3 points, 8 boards, though. Miles Studi's back. He had 6. Davis had 12, and Thomas had 12. I mean, let's go look at the team. North Florida really lost their best shooter in Chaz Lanier. He's at Tennessee now. I mean, South Carolina shooting 31% from the 3, 5 for 7 for 16, 46% from the field. That's not going to cut it. And you know what really beat them? What lost them this game? Shooting 56% from the free throw line, 14 for 25. That's going to get you beaten. Let's look at North Florida. 6 for 13 from the free throw. This was a clinic on how not to shoot free throws last night, guys. 46% for the winning team, North Florida. 56% for South Florida, or for South Carolina, not going to get it done. Well, guys like Nick Pringle, they should not be getting out rebounded by North Florida, 43-37. Overall, though, I mean, you had 15 turnovers. Again, 15 turnovers, shooting 56% from the free throw line, and getting out rebounded, 43-37. That's not going to beat many good teams. Who knows how good North Florida is? Right now, in this moment, I have a hard time seeing them being better because I know they lost their best player, who is now at Tennessee, and Chaz Lanier. Again, it's one loss. I think Lamont Paris and them, good basketball coach. I love the hire 2 years ago when he came over. This is his 3rd season. I think this team's going to improve, but they're not very good right now. I think 2 things can be true at once. Tough loss there. One of the 4 losses for the SEC on opening night, but we had to cruise through that one. Let's go to Mississippi State, West Georgia. Mississippi State getting the 95-60 win, the 35-point win. Again, Josh Hubbard doing Josh Hubbard things, 26 points, 10 for 13, 6 for 7 from beyond the arc. The guy was interesting here. My guy over here, Claudio Harris, 20 points. Coming over from Boston College. Again, they need some more scorers to help out. I mean, Mississippi State didn't score 95 much against Air last year. So 95 points, I don't care who it is, against West Georgia, who's probably not going to be very good, at least from a standpoint of Mississippi State. But again, 95 points is not something you're accustomed to seeing from Mississippi State. Holding people to 60 points is. I'm used to seeing that. But yeah, I mean, it was really the Josh Hubbard show. No other starter scored in double digits. Sean Jones had 8. Clary had 4. You had, let me go through it. Matthews had 5 and Murphy had 6. So no, the 2 guys to keep an eye on, you know, Josh Hubbard, and then obviously the Claudio Harris guy going for 20 points. So it's a big first win for Chris Jans and the boys. Let's keep rolling through a couple of these other scores. Georgia holding on for an 83-78 win over Tennessee Tech. This is going to be a bubble team for Georgia. A little sluggish at times, a little sloppy at times. Asa Newell, the big-time true freshman, coming in with 26 points, 13 for 22, 0 for 4 from beyond the arc. But I like the RJ Godfrey kid, the transfer from Clemson, coming over 10 points, had 10 boards. That's what you'll take, a double-double in any night like that. I thought he was key. Blue Kane had 9 points on 4-9, 0 for 5 from three-point. That's the problem. Georgia shot 22% from 3. 51% from the field goal, and only 61%. So if Georgia can get better, those numbers won't be as bad from the three-point line, I don't think, on a get most nights. Again, 22%, they're not going to consistently shoot like that. They'll be better from the free throw stripe at 61%. And then turnovers 13. Got to get that into single digits. And I know teams, Mike White and them know that. But that's usually the goal in basketball. Let's keep it to single digits. And I know as fast and up-tempo, as many possessions as these teams like to play with, and it being early in the season, being sloppy a little bit, playing with a lot of new people, that's going to happen. Georgia wasn't great, wasn't pretty. Would like to see a little more, but I think it's definitely fixable. This is still a team that's going to be on the bubble, could be on the right side of the NCAA tournament when Selection Sunday comes around. Let's go to another one. Give Mark Byington getting his first win as the new head Commodore, 102-63 win over Maryland Eastern Shore. Thought Vanderbilt actually didn't get a chance to watch much of this game, if I'm being honest. They shot 23% from the three-point line, 50% from field goal. Any big numbers just kind of stand out. Only one turnover. That's nice. I was just talking about it. To keep turnovers in the single digits, and Vanderbilt with one turnover. That's nice, folks. That's good. That's good across the board there. But no, I mean, you're not going to take a lot against Maryland Eastern Shore there. I want to go back and really watch this game. I know this is an instant reaction, but overall, though, you got to be happy. You're starting 1-0. The Vanderbilt non-conference schedule, let's look at it real fast. First, they play Cal at Virginia Tech. TCU will be tough. No real big hitters in non-con play, but I get it. Your first year, want to build some confidence, get that continuity together. But Mark Byington, just like Mark Pope, getting his first win as the new head coach in Nashville. So give him credit from that perspective, coming over from James Madison. And then finally, the last one, Porter Moser and the boys getting a 93-60 win. A lot of 90s, a lot of high-scoring points against Lyndenwood. Oklahoma here shooting 41% from three, 52% from on the arc. And a lot of teams shooting in the mid-60s at the free throw line. Out-rebounded Lyndenwood 43-31. Turnovers in the double digits in the 12. Let's look to see what we're doing. Let's see what I got Muhammad Wagee did in this. What did he play? He played 10 minutes, 5 points. But no, our guy over at Jalen Moore over here led with 22 points. Georgia, he was at Oklahoma last year, but he originally came from Georgia Tech. I do remember him being in the portal over there. It's another one I'm going to need to go back and watch from a Lyndenwood perspective. But D Miles had 14. Duke Miles had 14 points across the board. Kid from Montgomery, Alabama. I do remember him out of high school. He was a High Point last year originally at Troy. Makes sense. He's from Montgomery. Again, this is a team that's going to have to continue just to develop across the board. Really not a lot you can take from this one. Lyndenwood, the Lions are not going to be a good basketball team. Not a real big test. Winning this game by 33. Good first win. I think Porter Moser, one of the more underrated coaches in the league. He just doesn't have the NIL war chest, the budget that a lot of these teams in the SEC now are operating with. Remember, the SEC takes basketball really serious now. Give Mike Slive credit back in the day when the SEC network in 2014 was starting. He went to the administration, the presidents of these schools, and said, hey, we can make a ton of money off the SEC network from college basketball, guys. If you can get really good coaches in this league, and we start investing money into this sport, this isn't just a sport to get us through until spring football, guys. We can be really good and make a lot of money. That's what's happened. So there's so many good coaches in this league now. Porter Moser being one of them, but he needs help from an NIL collective. His team's just going to continue to get better this year. I don't think they're an NCAA tournament team. Not a lot you can take from this Lyndenwood game. Their first big game in Providence is just going to be okay this year. Georgia Tech, Oklahoma State, Michigan. They got some key matchups in non-conference slate before they open up with Alabama, which is a tough one at Alabama to open up conference play. But I think Oklahoma's that team to keep monitoring just to see how much better they're going to get, because I do think Porter Moser can coach. But, guys, I just want to give you a little update on everything, guys, across the board on opening night in college basketball in the SEC. Remember, Arkansas, Auburn, and LSU did not play. They'll play on Wednesday. We'll talk about that one as well. But this segment, guys, before we get you out of here, was brought to you by our buddies over at MYBOOKIE.ag. Use code SECU at sign up to receive a special welcome offer on your first deposit. There's no better time to be going to game on, guys. I bet on Alabama minus 27.5 last night. Won that one easily. College basketball, college football across the board. Phenomenal time to go join our buddies over at MyBookie.ag. And remember, use that code SECU, folks. But again, guys, I'm your host, Dave Shumate, your head basketball analyst, just reacting to the opening night. Was it pretty? No. Was it good? No. It's college basketball, guys. We had 4 losses in the league. I still think this is the best league in college basketball. The Big 12 may have a conversation about that. They did get one head-to-head win last night, UCF over Texas A&M. But it's a long season. I think we see a lot of improved teams. We've seen this from Texas A&M. A&M fans, don't panic. South Carolina fans, I think you're only going to improve under Lamont Paris. Do not panic. Missouri, you look better. I knew you couldn't be worse. You went defeated last year, but you do look bigger, more athletic this year. I do like what Dennis Gates' team's doing. And then who's the other one? Oh, and then Texas. You got to find some more help outside Trey Johnson if you're Rodney Terry. I think all this is fixable, guys. Is that the night the SEC wanted to open up college basketball? No. It's a long season, though. I still think this is a 9 to a potential 11 bid league, most likely 10, like I projected in the preseason. But guys, I'm Dave Shumate, your host. Just wanted to react to the initial night of college basketball. You have a phenomenal rest of your week.